Welcome to chapter 40 of the book of Job. Continues with God talking to Job, and then these few verses here, and then Job responds. I'll read these two in Greek. Ke apokrithi Kyrios o Theos to Job, ke ipe, mikrisi meta ekanu krinis, elenknon theon, apokrithisate afto, and the Lord God responded to Job. This is very important. We see the Kyrios. In the Hebrew, that would be the tetragrammaton. And as far as if you went to my video seminar in the book of Joshua, the introduction, the pronunciation of the Hebrew according to the pronunciation by the Greek transliterations would have Ia for Kyrios, and either the name, the title, both. And appears here in Genesis at the very beginning, but which is a book that was written, I believe, before the time of Abraham or around that time, way before Genesis. Kyrios doesn't appear in the book of Genesis until the second chapter. It just calls him God. But here we see Kyrios appearing in the Hebrew Ia. And so this to me is very amazing, showing how this book is so unique. And so it's God, the Lord God, the Kyrios, and Jesus is called the Kyrios. The Lord God responded to Job and said, "Shall you judge a judgment with the fit one? Are you going to be able to do what I'm doing? And one reproving God, shall he answer to him? If you're reproving God, is he going to answer?" And then Job responds to the Lord. And undertaking, Job says to the Lord, "Well, why still do I plead, being admonished and reproved by the Lord, hearing such things and being nothing? Who am I? Dealing with God. And what answer shall I give to these things? What can I say? I shall put a hand upon my mouth. Once I have spoken, but for a second time I'll not proceed." And again undertaking, Kyrios spoke to Job from out of the cloud, saying, "But no, tie up your loin as a man, and I will ask you, then you answer me." So I don't think this is a condemnation of Job, it's just encouragement. "Or should you undo my judgment? Do you imagine me otherwise executing things with you? Or that you should appear just? Or is your arm as the arm of the Lord? Or do you thunder with a voice as him? Then lift yourself up in stature and power, and clothe yourself with glory and honor." And I think this is again encouraging Job. "And send messengers in anger, and humble all the arrogant, and extinguish the proud man, and impious ones cause to rot immediately. Do these things, be along with me, go along with the things that I would have. And hide them in the earth with one accord, and the things of their faces fill with dishonor." These bad people. "And indeed, I shall acknowledge surely that your right hand is able to deliver." Well, deliver, yeah, anybody could deliver. Jesus is the deliverer from Satan and sins. But exactly what type of deliverance he's talking about, God is here, I'm not sure. But that changes in verse 15 to the wild beast. Now, the wild beast, I'd like to go into the book of Revelation before we get into here. And then after we read what Revelation says about the wild beast, then you can gather this information and digest it for yourselves. Now, there were wild beasts, wild animals, and then there were another type of wild beast. And we see that in Daniel 7:4, where it talks about 4 great wild beasts. And then in Daniel 7:11, he says, I viewed then because of a voice of the great words which that horn spoke until the wild beast was done away with and destroyed, and its body was given unto burning fire. Now, the 4 wild beasts, it says, were kingdoms. The 4th kingdom is way different. It was the wild beast. Then we hop to the future, to the book of Revelation, future to us today. And Revelation 11:7 begins describing the things with the wild beast. First appears, it says, and whenever they, that is the 2 witnesses, should finish their witness, the wild beast descending from out of the abyss will make war with them and will overcome them and will kill them. Then we'll go into Revelations 13, do the whole chapter, and I'll read it. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw from out of the sea a wild beast ascending, having 10 horns and 7 heads, and upon his horns 10 diadems, and upon his heads a name of blasphemy. And the wild beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet as a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave to him his power, and we'll go into the dragon in the next chapter here of Job, and his throne and great authority. So he has throne and authority. And one from out of his heads was as having been slain to death, and the wound of his death was cured. And there was wonder in all the earth after the wild beast, and they did obeisance to the dragon, giving the authority to the wild beast, and they did obeisance to the wild beast, saying, Who is likened to the wild beast? And who is mighty to wage war with him? Now, I believe this is a future time. I don't believe that the believers, I think, will have long been gone. The gathering, it mentions in 2 Thessalonians, right at the beginning of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. And a mouth was given to him speaking great things and blasphemy. And authority was given to him to make war 42 months. And he opened his mouth for blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tent, or the tabernacle, and the ones encamping in the heaven, which would be us, and was given to him to make war with the holy ones and to overcome them, and was given to him authority over every tribe and language and nation. And they did obeisance to him, all the ones dwelling upon the earth, whose name has not been written in the book of life of the Lamb, having been slain from the founding of the world. If anyone has an ear, hear. If anyone has captivity, into captivity he goes. If anyone kills with a sword, it is a must for him to be killed by a sword. Here is the endurance and the belief of the holy ones. And I saw another wild beast descending from out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like unto a lamb. So now another wild beast, and spoke as a dragon. And he executes all the authority of the first wild beast before him, and caused the earth and the ones dwelling in it that they should do obeisance to the first wild beast, of which was cured the wound of his death. Now remember, in Daniel, these are kingdoms, the wild beasts could still be. And he works a great signs and fire, that from out of the heaven it should come down upon the earth before men. And he misleads the ones of mind dwelling upon the earth by the signs which were given to him to do, before the wild beast, the first wild beast, saying to the ones dwelling upon the earth to make an image to the wild beast, which had the wound of the sword and lived. And was given to him breath to give to the image of the wild beast, that also the image of the wild beast should speak. And an image is a icon. We have an icon in the little signs in a computer. It's interesting, isn't it? It could be tied to a computer. And should cause as many as should not do obeisance to the image of the wild beast, that they should be killed. And he causes all, the small and the great, and the rich and the poor, and the free and the bondman, that there should be given to them an imprint upon their right hand and upon their foreheads, and that no one should be able to buy or sell except the one having the imprint, or the name of the wild beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom, the one having the mind, tally the number of the wild beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Three separates, not 666. And then in Revelations 14:9-11, next we have an image, and find it here, 9-11. And another angel, a third, followed them, saying with a great voice, if any does obeisance to the wild beast and his image, and receives an imprint upon his forehead or upon his hand, even he shall drink from out of the wine of the rage of God, being mixed undiluted in the cup of his wrath, and he shall be tormented by fire and sulfur before his holy angels and before the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascends into the eon of the eons, and they have not rest. And then in 16:2 also mentions they have the imprint. And then in 15:2 it says, and I saw as a glass sea with fire being mixed, and the ones overcoming from the wild beast and from his image. So there are the ones that are overcoming. And then in 16:10 it says, and the fifth angel poured out his bowl upon the throne of the wild beast. So he has a now which wild beast? Good question. And his kingdom became enveloped in darkness. And then in 16:13, and I saw from out of the mouth of the dragon, and from out of the mouth of the wild beast, and from out of the mouth of the false prophet, 3 unclean spirits as frogs. Then another wild beast appears in 17. It starts in 17:3-17. And I saw a woman sitting upon a scarlet wild beast. So now which one is in Job was a good question. Being full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was wearing purple and scarlet, gilded with gold, and precious stone and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and the uncleanlinesses of her harlotry. And upon her forehead a name being written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, which I believe is Jerusalem, the mother of the harlots and the abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman being intoxicated from the blood of the holy ones, and from the blood of the witness of Jesus, and they were, the Jews were. And I marveled, having seen her, with great wonder. And the angel said to me, why do you marvel? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and of the wild beast, bearing her, having the 7 heads and the 10 horns. The wild beast, which you saw, was and is not, and is about to ascend from out of the abyss, and to go away into destruction. And the ones dwelling upon the earth will marvel, whose names are not written upon the scroll of the life of the founding of the world, seeing the wild beast that was and is not and shall be at hand. Here is the mind having wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains where the woman sits upon them, and Jerusalem has 7 mountains. And there are, you can go into Wikipedia and it has their names. So, and there are 7 kings, the 5 fallen, the 1 is, the other not yet is come. That'd be interesting to count how many prime ministers there are in Israel, but and he must remain a little. And the wild beast which was and is not, even he is 8th, and is from out of the 7, and goes unto destruction. And the 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings, the ones whom not yet received a kingdom, but receive authority as kings 1 hour with the wild beast. These have one opinion, and they give the power and their authority to the wild beast. And these will wage war against the Lamb, and the Lamb will overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and the ones with him are called chosen and trustworthy. And then down in 17, and the 10 horns which you saw upon the wild beasts, these will detest the harlot. And I believe that's Jerusalem, and will cause her to be made desolate, and will make her naked, and will devour her flesh, and will incinerate her by fire. And for God gave unto their hearts to do his design, and to do one design, and to give their kingdom to the wild beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. And the woman whom you saw is the great city, having kingship over all the kings of the earth. Then we jump next to 19. War with the wild beast. And 19 and 7 verses 19 and 20. And I saw the wild beast and the kings of the earth and their militaries being gathered together to make war with the one sitting upon the horse, and with his military. And the wild beast was laid hold of, and with this one the false prophet performing the signs before him, in which he misled the ones receiving the imprint of the wild beast and the ones doing obeisance to his image. The two were thrown living into the lake of fire, burning with sulfur. And then in chapter 20, verse 10, it says, ends up with it, and the devil, misleading them, was cast into the lake of fire and sulfur, where the wild beasts and the false prophet are. And the unbelievers will also be cast into that lake of fire. Now we'll go back to Job, and we'll see how if this ties in at all. It begins, but indeed, behold, the wild beast by you eats grass equal to oxen. Behold, indeed, now Nebuchadnezzar was tied into one of the wild beasts when he was eating grass. Behold, indeed, his strength is in his loin, and his power is in the navel of his belly. And it doesn't sound like a group of people, but this one being. He sets his tail as a kiparison. You can add that to your English derivatives book. It's almost a transliteration into Cyprus. And his nerves are closely joined. His sides are sides of brass, and his spine is as cast iron. This is really something. This is the beginning of the thing shaped by the Lord being made to be mocked by his angels. Here, this is way before anything in Genesis, where it talks about this wild beast. And coming upon a chiseled mountain, he produces a cause for joy to the four-footed in the infernal region. That would be the wild beast, infernal region. It's Tartarus. It only appears in the book of Job, the infernal region. Under all kinds of trees he sleeps. by the papyrus, and reed and flowering rush. And trees shadow to him or in him with scions and branches of the chaste tree. If there should be an inundation, in no way shall it be perceived. He relies that the Jordan will rush up into his mouth. So it ties into area of Israel. Or by his eye one will take him, and being caught in a snare, will you drill his nose? Or in the question mark, by his eye will one take him. So it's like this is a strong, powerful being. But it doesn't end there now. So we can see certain things here that could tie into this wild beast, or the three wild beasts basically in the book of Revelation. The first wild beast, the second wild beast, and the scarlet, woman of scarlet. Yeah, the scarlet wild beast. But gets more interested in 41 because now we get into the dragon. And this is appears way before the book of Genesis also. Hope you'll join us in this next interesting chapter. And until then, God bless.